Well, welcome to Undercover. We're catching up with the Chicago story and Craig McLachlan, who's an actor, a singer. He's even been a transvestite.
He has indeed.
He has.
And you know what? Richard O'Brien, the creator of Rocky Horror Show, folks, that's the show we're talking about, said to me
Oh, were you in that too?
Yeah, we'll edit that out. Of course, we first met at that funny little leather bar, didn't we?
Well, yeah.
Richard O'Brien said to me years ago, once you do Frankenfurter, and I mean that in the professional sense, in the nicest possible way, he never leaves you.
Yeah.
And I thought at the time, don't be ridiculous. It's true.
Yeah.
I even find there are moments here in Chicago, playing a guy like Billy Flynn, where sometimes I just feel the overwhelming desire, oh, Roxy, Velma. I mean, Frank never leads you, but that's another story for another day.
Yeah, well, I mean, getting into character as Frankenfurter for Billy Flynn in Chicago is a bit of a point of difference, isn't it?
It certainly is.
Yeah.
But both shows a bucket load of fun.
They certainly are.
We're having the time of our lives here.
Yeah. Well, having done the television acting, the stage shows, even being the pop star in your day, what's more fun?
Yeah, my Partridge Family, David Cassidy moment. Mullet, sitting in the back of nothing beats the live arena, obviously. Gina, my good mate Gina Riley, who you'll probably meet shortly, we often talk about it. You know, I get a kick out of doing whatever it is I'm doing, but, you know, the world of film and television, obviously, you do have take one, take two, take three, take four, and however many takes is required up your sleeve. And of course, that doesn't exist here. And I know it's cliched, and you know, I probably sound like some kind of prehistoric, performing dinosaur, but there is nothing like the adrenaline and the buzz of just coming out to a full house and doing your thing. Don't get me wrong, folks, if you want to employ me for your next television drama, sure, I'm there, but nothing quite beats the theatre, you know.
But how does that compare to, like, having a number one record in England, for instance? I mean, that was pretty special.
That was pretty special. Those were fun times. Listen, how old was I? I must have been in my early 20s. And the record company, I remember the record company calling us here in Australia saying, you better brace yourself. It's going to be like Beatlemania meets Culture Club Mania meets Kiss Mania and a whole bunch of sorts of manias. And I remember thinking, gee, they bung it on, don't they, these record company people? It can't be that chaotic. And it was absolutely mad. I mean, I can remember we played a gig in Wales to something like 40,000 people at this outdoor thing. And I was going to say the band and I were buzzing for days. We were buzzing for years. It's the sort of stuff, we dreamt of as kids, playing at the Cessnock Workers Club, thinking, oh, one day wouldn't it be great to have a hit record and play a stadium? And suddenly we were, and it was mind-blowing, mind-blowing.
Yeah. Well, tell us about studying for this role, because, Chicago has played right around the world. It's been a movie. Do you go and study the movie, study the other stage shows?
No, I didn't specifically before we started rehearsing, but I've seen the show many times in London. I've done a bunch of musicals in the UK over the last few years, and a lot of people I work with have been in and out of the Chicago revolving door over there, because it continues to be a smash hit on the West End. And so I've gone to see friends from time to time in the show. It's tight, it's sexy, it's funny enough. It was one of those shows I'd sit there watching a mate in the show and think, oh, I'd like to have a crack at that one day, crack at Billy Flynn. Never imagining. I kind of figured I might have a chance at doing it in London one day. I had no idea that I'd end up doing it back here in Australia, which is like, a double treat for me. I get to do it here at home. But I tend not to study. Of course, the movie set a whole new precedent. A lot of people haven't seen the stage show, which is why you should come and see the stage show. If you've seen the movie and you enjoyed that, let me assure you of this: you'll really love our show. But the movie set a new benchmark. It was funny, we kicked the show off in Brisbane, and a lady and her husband came up to me, a senior couple, and they said, oh, we really enjoyed the show. We don't go to the theatre a lot, but we've seen the movie a little while ago. And this chap, Neville, his name was, his wife piped up and she said, "Yes, Mr. McLachlan, you sang so beautifully. I had no idea. If I could make one suggestion." And I went, "Yeah." She said, "Richard Gere had much greyer hair. You should look at your hair." But that's a funny example of how the movie set such a precedent, you know.
It's taken over the image, yeah.
It kind of has.
Yeah.
But, you know, the same can be said, you know, the musical Grease. The movie that we're all familiar with, other than the fact that it's set in the 50s and it's, you know, it's the T-Birds and the Pink Ladies and stuff, the original theatre production of Grease is a million miles away from what we ended up experiencing on the screen. Songs were written for the movie and all the rest of it. So, you know, when they get the film versions of these shows right, it sets a whole new benchmark. But thankfully, Chicago, all the things that you love and recognise from the film are still here. It's just that Billy Flynn doesn't have nearly as grey hair, and
that's a good thing, Craig.
And I think that's probably a good thing.
Yeah. Well, Craig McLachlan, starring in Chicago, thank you for joining us here at Undercover.
It's my pleasure.